Hello, Dr. Zimmer, fellow classmates, and the honor students who may be watching this video. My name is Devin Haltom, and I am here to talk about my book report that I did and just basically what we went on throughout the whole year. I'd just like to start off by going a little bit over what we did earlier on this year with the book Behold the Dreamers. Behold the Dreamers is a novel by Mbola Mbiu, which is this woman right here. She wrote this book basically based off her own experiences coming into America from Cameroon, but it features the story of Jende and his wife Nini, and how kind of like their situation that they went on when they came here, and some of the difficulties that they had with getting a job, living, trying to follow the American dream, and getting citizenship so that they could stay here. I relate this because of the book that I chose, How May I Help You by Deepak Singh, which is written by this man right here. I relate this to the book Behold the Dreamers because it deals very heavily with the experience of an immigrant and how difficult his life was adapting to his process of coming to America. He went through, basically as it describes on the title of the book right there, How May I Help You? An Immigrant's Journey from MBA to Minimum Wage. While he was in India, he had obtained what's the equivalent of a master's degree in India in business, and then he found the woman that he loved, and he decided to go back to America with her. The story details his struggle from going from having a very well-paying job. He remarks in the book by saying that he made in a month what his father had made after working at his job for a month. He made what his father made after working there for his whole entire life, basically. So he was very well off, but then he lost everything when he came to America, and he only was able to land a job at basically your equivalent of like what a Radio Shack is. And the book details his description of what the American dream means to him, what it means to other people, and their struggles that they go through all the time. And this relates to our service learning that we did, and we decided to go with the group called Ascend. Ascend, what they do is they deal with anybody that is struggling in the Gilbert and Chandler area, although they do heavily focus on those that are Hispanic. And I chose this group to work with because I figured that if anyone's going to equate to any immigrants here in Arizona, it's most likely to be those of Hispanic descent. We don't have many coming from Europe or Asia here in Arizona. Mainly it's going to come from Mexico and anywhere more south than that. With this group, what we decided to focus on was helping those that are in need, any of those that are in need. Other people in my group were looking at housing that they help with. Other people were looking at just helping those when they are poor, and then I was looking at helping those that are not accustomed to our own culture or face that of racial or just any form of job discrimination, whether that be in the interview or after they get the job, just as Deepak Singh did in his own book as he describes the discrimination that he faced. So I looked at a couple of articles in order to help what I was researching, and I came across this one on EBSCOhost. It's called Career Barriers for Chinese Immigrants in the United States, and this article just details struggles that Chinese immigrants face as they try to get a job here. I tried to relate the Chinese immigrants as close as I could to the Indian immigrants because they are very similar in the way that in their own countries the science and medical fields are very pushed there. They're way more prevalent there than they are here in the United States, I would almost say. And so for Deepak Singh, who had a master's degree, it is a master's degree, but he had it in business, he often struggled with that because he felt that he didn't quite fit the stereotype of what an Indian immigrant who comes to the United States would have. So I looked at this article for how those that actually do have what they quote unquote are supposed to have, how they dealt with it. And then I also looked at this newspaper article called Immigration Laws Linked to Job Bias. It's from a while ago. The exact year is from 1990. And how this just deals with is that there are actual laws that target those that come from other countries that make it harder for them to obtain work and to be able to strive here. The struggles that they have throughout their lives actually are written in laws that make it harder for them to adapt to their lives here. And then I also found this article called Across the U.S., Immigrants Find the Land of Resentment. And this one I kind of wanted to use to target the American dream, about how we think of it as such a great thing that it will help anyone who comes here as long as they work hard, that they'll be able to they work their best and they do their best, that they'll find their break, that they'll be able to make money. However, we find that this is actually not true. In the article from 1992, it states that sometimes people would actually go against their own social customs that they had before. For example, men who would wear their turbans would actually not wear them in public anymore because of the fear and the prejudice that they would receive because of what they were wearing. And this was all a result of, after World War I, some changes that came to pass. So I want to talk about these things because of immigration. We like to pride ourselves as being the melting pot that is America, that we take all these different cultures and we take them all and we put them into a country that's supposed to work really well, and in reality that this isn't true at all. We do not respect the degrees that people have from other countries, the education that they received, or any of their customs that they have. In fact, many of those customs that they have are actually frowned upon. For example, Deepak Singh, in his book, he describes about how he had trouble. Well, he was very good at speaking English. However, he was not able to speak the language that the salesman could speak, and he struggled with this. He didn't know the lingo that was needed for his job. He wasn't taught it because it's something that you can't teach, and he didn't know that. And when everybody else was excelling, he wasn't. He was kind of stuck in the same place. And this brings me on to the next topic of job discrimination. And it doesn't just apply to those from that are immigrants from different areas that come to the United States. It applies to anyone. It applies to women. It applies to the elderly. Applies to any of any racial background, and then of course disabled, and then the immigrants that we spoke of earlier. All in all, you take all these different ideas together, and it's kind of what I've been focusing on this year, is that the American dream is not necessarily as cut and paste as we like to make it out to be as Americans. It may seem that, yes, the harder you work, the more education you receive, the better off you will be. However, it does not quite work like that for most people. In fact, most people do struggle in their day-to-day lives, even though they may work as hard as possible. Sometimes I want to say, we put wool over our eyes and we don't see what the reality is, and we leave people behind because we don't educate. Well, not necessarily we don't educate, but we don't help them along the path as they go through their lives, and instead we leave them behind. Some people end up being more well off than others, whereas we should be helping everyone. And that's kind of like the point that Deepak Singh wants to go over in his book, is that he sees that these people, it's not just him because he's an Indian struggling, it's because the process by which it is to get out of that hole that is poverty is way too hard. And Ascend is one of those groups that I wanted to go back to, that focuses on helping those people get out of that hole. Even though it's a hard program, it's a hard process to get out, it is possible, and then they are there to help. And that concludes my presentation. I'd like to thank you all so very much for a great year, and then thank you so much, and have yourself a good day.